What is good, everybody? Welcome to SB Nation's live coverage of the 2022 NFL Draft. I am Rob Stats Guerrera from Niners Nation and the SB Nation NFL show, alongside Stephen Serda from Arrowhead Pride, also an NFL show co-host, and Kyle Posey, my fellow Niners Nation brother-at-arms. Stephen, KP, what's going on? Welcome to the draft.
Yeah, what's going on? I'm ready. It's been rough today. Just sitting around all day waiting, and we got all of our draft content in, and so I feel like I've just been kind of pacing around my apartment all day waiting for this thing to start.
It is a night. This is going to be a night in NFL history that we remember for a long time because, Kyle, nobody has any idea what's going to happen.
Yeah, it seems like Travon Walker, and then everybody's guessing after that. And it took us a while to get to Travon Walker. Usually, by the time April comes around, everybody knows who's going number one. Everybody knows who's going number two. But I think we're going to get some chaos tonight, and that's, the best case scenario for everybody involved, I say.
So before we get to everything happening, I just want to remind everybody that we are brought to you by the DraftKings Sportsbook. DraftKings Sportsbook is an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Here's what you do. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app today. Use code, SBNNFL for a special offer when you sign up. That is code SBNNFL only at DraftKings. We have an incredible night lined up for you. KP and Stephen Serda are here. We are going to have guests from multiple team communities join us throughout the evening. It is going to be just all the draft coverage you could want and none of the crap and fluff that you have to put up with when you watch ESPN, when you watch NFL Network. Brandon Lee Gowden from Bleeding Green Nation is going to stop by. RJ Ochoa from Blogging the Boys will be here with us in about a half hour from now. Justice Mosqueda from Acme Packing Company is going to be here. Kate Majuk from DK Nation will join us. Pete Sweeney from Arrowhead Pride. And, of course, Michael Peterson from Bolts from the Blue. And then after we get through the first 10 picks, guys, it's not over. We are going to hop into a Twitter space, and we are going to bring on more guests from our team communities because we want to hear from you. You've got questions, thoughts, concerns, all of that stuff. You'll be able to hop up on stage with us, ask us questions, give your thoughts. So it is a 360-degree draft coverage here at SB Nation. Stephen, let me put it to you first. Right now, what is the most interesting, juiciest rumor that you have seen as we sit here at just past 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern time?
I think it's got to be the Chiefs possibly trading up, or the Eagles. Like, they seem like the most likely at this point, at least what has been reported so far. And Jay Glazer said that the Chiefs are so interested in moving up and being aggressive that they would even trade next year's first round pick. I disagree with that. But it's just crazy because I feel like all the draft preparation, everything that we do all year long to get ready for this weekend, feels like we have absolutely no idea what's going on. And that might be the case every year in some regard, but this year it feels like it's even worse than it's ever been. Like, none of us have any idea what's going to happen in this draft.
We have wide receiver, seemingly an endless stream of wide receiver news. KP and I are locked into wide receiver news because we're on Debo Samuel watch and have been for multiple days here. The Chiefs, if the Chiefs are going to move up for a wide receiver, why move up for a wideout when you could move up, or you could trade those picks to the 49ers, Kyle, for Debo Samuel?
For one shiny Debo Samuel. Could you imagine that, man? Going from Tyreek Hill to Debo Samuel. What a rough life for Patrick Mahomes. I want to see – I'm kind of on the opposite way, though. I don't want to pair like stars with stars. I want to see who's the Cleveland Farrell. Who is going to be the pick that everybody – like that nobody would have guessed, that the Alex Leatherwood of the, a couple years ago with the Raiders, like, who's going to be the surprise? Or like, what were they thinking? Or nobody pegged that player to go high, because it happens every year and we're always surprised when it happens. I want to know. I want to know who that's going to be.
Well, we don't have Mike Mayock to kick around anymore. I feel like the Raiders usually were the ones who would make the pick. Even before Mayock got there, it was always the Raiders, right? Who ran the fastest 40? And then we just peg that guy to the Raiders. No, that is not the case anymore, sadly. Jay Glazer has popped up. I call him the NFL groundhog because we don't hear from him for 364 days a year. And then all of a sudden he pops up and breaks like a gigantic story, and then he goes away again. He's talked about the Chiefs trading up. He talked about Debo Samuel. He said, quote, I think a team really needs to blow the 49ers out of the water with an offer, and that hasn't happened yet, if at all. Steven, you're outside the Niners Nation bubble. I put it to you. Does Debo Samuel get traded tonight?
I think I'd be shocked if he actually gets traded. Like, I know there was those like false reports, and maybe I shouldn't call them that, but they were false, like about Debo, like the Niners offering up or the Jets offering up everything basically for Debo. I think he's an incredible player, and maybe he doesn't wind up being a San Francisco 49er, but I just don't see them moving him. Like, I'm not convinced that it is totally unfixable there in San Francisco and that the relationship is totally over. So I'd be really shocked if he actually winds up being moved. I just don't see it happening, especially when we saw what Tyreek Hill went for. We saw what Devontae Adams went for. Like, teams just aren't willing to give up the draft capital right now based on what wide receivers are getting paid. And Debo Samuel is going to make a lot of money. I just don't see some team willing to do that.
Yeah, I think it comes down to, like, when you're talking about Debo, when you're talking about paying, like, just moving that type of picks, you're going to have to pay him right away. And we've talked about this in the Niners Nation podcast. You have to pay him, and you hope that he's going to stay healthy. And that just hasn't happened to the level where you're comfortable with paying him 40, 50 million guaranteed, however much money it's going to be. So are you going to pay him a boatload of money knowing that he's probably going to be productive when he plays, but he might not play? Like, he's missed 11 games in 3 years. So it's that, or have a rookie on a rookie deal without, having overpay him and, just move multiple first rounders. It makes a lot of sense to just go the rookie route, especially with the, the salary cap, man.
So we're on Debo watch. We have been. I'm not going to exhale until literally the first round is over, Kyle, but we'll see how that goes.
Right.
The other story of this draft, I feel like it's the story of haves and have-nots. There are 8 teams with multiple first-round picks. That is literally a quarter of the league. And not surprisingly, there are 8 teams with no picks in the first round. But I think that we are going to see an unprecedented amount of movement. I don't think that all these teams are just going to sit there and use both of their picks. That just generally is not what happens in the draft. I mean, the Lions have 2 first-round picks. They have 2 and 32. The Texans have 3 and 13. They've been rumored to be up to some draft shenanigans. The Jets are at 4 and 10. The Giants are at 5 and 7, thanks to the Justin Fields trade. The Eagles are at 15 and 18. Howie Roseman loves to make draft trades. He's already made a draft trade before we even got here. The Saints have 16 and 19 because they made that trade with the Eagles. The Packers are at 22 and 28, and the Chiefs are at 29 and 30. Steven, if I had to put you on the spot, which of those teams do you think is most likely to trade up?
I think it's the Eagles. I think, Howie Roseman in that franchise, and they like taking big swings in the draft, and I don't think they're afraid to do it. I think it's them or the Chiefs. Like, I do buy that the Chiefs are actively and aggressively trying to move up in the draft, but I don't think they're going to do it at the cost of a lot of draft capital. They've got 12 picks, 8 in the first 4 rounds. So I really think that their movement is going to come a lot more in the rounds 2 through 4, where you can move around and it takes a lot less to move up a few picks or something to go grab a guy and sneak ahead of a team or something like that, as opposed to the first round. If they do it, I think the only scenario where the Chiefs legitimately move up in a big way in the first round is if Kayvon Thibodeaux winds up dropping for whatever reason, which I think is crazy. And edge rusher is their absolute biggest need in the draft. I don't understand why there's all this noise around him dropping in the draft, but if he does and they can move up and do it, I would be thrilled. And that would make my whole day. I would be totally fine if the Chiefs wound up getting him somehow in the draft.
KP, what about you?
I think it's going to be the Packers because they know that, they need a wide receiver. They traded one of the best wide receivers, if not the best wide receiver in the game. And based on where they're at in the draft, they're probably going to miss out on, one of the top wideouts. So you either stay there and overdraft a wide receiver, wait for wide receiver and not have the ability to replace Devontae Adams. I don't think you want to do that. So I think they're going to move up, use one of those picks. And maybe it's Chris Olave, maybe it's Jameson Williams. Who knows? One of those guys who will fall to maybe the early 20s or even late teens. I think that's what we see the Packers do, get aggressive. And that way, Aaron Rodgers has an excuse, whatever's going to happen. But they're still going to lose in the playoffs, so who cares?
Yeah, they are, and they're going to lose to the 49ers.
Probably.
If I had to peg a team, I might go with the Saints. You know, the analogy I keep making with the Saints is they're trying to make a Big Mac without the secret sauce. And if you try and make a Big Mac without the secret sauce, without Sean Payton, you know what you have? You have a hamburger. That's not going to get it done. They're trying to keep everything the same. I don't think it's going to work. I think they're going to move up. And I know this is crazy because this is, conventional wisdom is that this draft has no quarterbacks in it. I think they're moving up for a quarterback. Do you know no team has gone longer in the NFL without drafting a quarterback in the first round? Do you have any idea when the last time the Saints used a first round pick on a quarterback was?
First rounder?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think it was sometime in the 70s because I think I saw it on Twitter earlier today. I don't remember the exact year, though.
It's unbelievable. They selected Dave Wilson out of Illinois in the supplemental draft of 1981.
Wow.
I was not alive the last time the New Orleans Saints used a first-round pick on a quarterback. Like, it's time. It's time. You've traded Drew Brees. Or I'm sorry, Drew Brees is retired. Sean Payton is not there anymore. Jameis Winston is there, but he is a literal walking, talking turnover.
Andy Dalton, baby.
Oh, my God. No.
Andy Dalton.
Yeah, Andy Dalton, New Orleans Saints.
I think they're trading up for a quarterback.
Desmond Ridder would be fun there. That would be a guy that would be able to probably play right away in that offense. They need weapons. They need a tackle. But if you don't believe in Jameis, if you don't believe that Jameis is your long-term future, and you're at least somewhat confident in one of these quarterbacks, whether it's Malik Willis, whether it's Desmond Ridder, you have to pull the trigger because that position means so much to a team.
So do you guys think that, like, if New Orleans does trade up for a quarterback, that they have to do that for Desmond Ridder? Because I feel like they could get him like where they're situated
That's a good point.
right now. I think it's like, is there a quarterback that you have to trade up for, like, other than Malik Willis? And I don't even know if you have to do that.
I don't think so. I think this is a weird draft, just to say that, because when would that ever be true? Ever to be able to sit tight in the teens for QB1. So yeah, I don't think they would. Man, it looks like Goodell's about to announce it.
Oh, good old Raj.
Already?
I'm sure they cheered him on. It's
booing?
10 minutes. They've been on the clock for 3 months now. How do you not know who you're taking?
They love being on the clock, especially the When is the last good thing people have had to say about the Jaguars? They've been through a hellish year, right? They want the good press. They want a little love. So I get it. You're still trying to recover after the Urban Meyer debacle.
Oh, we got 10 minutes still. They just started the clock.
Yeah, they are officially on the clock. It is 10 minutes between picks. I think 10 minutes is even too long. It used to be longer. I remember when it was longer and they did this whole thing in one day, but that just makes me the old dude in the room.
Saturday, Sunday?
Yeah, it was great.
I am frustrated by the Jags are going to take up like this whole 10 minutes, right?
Yes, so ridiculous.
Supposedly they already know who they want. So what are we doing here? Like,
why
can't we just cut to it and go ahead and get the guy? Like, what are you fielding phone calls? You're not trading out of the number one pick at this point. Let's just move this thing along.
They should lose picks for taking for each minute they take. They should lose a pick.
Yeah, you get a compensatory draft pick goes to a division rival if you don't hurry up and make a pick.
And let's be honest, they could throw a dart at the picks and just get somebody at a position of need, unless it's like quarterback. Jacksonville has a bunch of needs. This is the perfect little trio to talk about Trent Baalke because Kyle and I cover the 49ers. We are very familiar with the Jags GM.
Arm length, baby.
Yeah, he loves it. He loves arm length. And if you've torn your ACL recently, that's like, boom, you're in. You're going to be the next pick for Trent Baalke. Where do you think he's going to go, Kyle?
I mean, it's funny, but Aiden Hutchinson's arm length is 32 1/8 inches, and Travon Walker's arm length is 35 1/2 inches. Mm-hmm. So if we're narrowing it down, putting 2 and 2 together, I mean, the odds say it's Travon Walker by a landslide. Unless it's a real surprise here, I would imagine they go Georgia's Travon Walker. I understand why too. I know everybody talks about this draft isn't as strong as it was in 2013. So if that's true, if that's the case, why not take a swing at an everything athlete who played on a national championship team? He just turned 21. So what we see is nowhere near what his ceiling is going to be. You have to think that at worst, if this is what you're getting from Travon Walker, then he's going to be a fine player, but I think he's going to get much better. I think his athleticism is just unreal, and that'll allow him to get better. He's strong, he's physical, he's everything you need. I'm cool with the Jags taking Travon Walker. Like, I understand why they would go Travon Walker.
Steven, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it is Travon Walker at this point, just based on everything that we've seen, all the information that we have available. And I think me, KP, and Justice talked about it on NFL University. Like, Trent Baalke doesn't like Jim Harbaugh, and the whole Michigan thing, I think, is something that legitimately plays into this. Like, I think Trent Baalke is that kind of petty that he would just be like, no, I write off all Michigan players because I despise that guy and I don't like him. So we're taking Travon Walker #1 overall. And it does in a draft where it feels like we don't have any idea what's going to happen. It feels like that's the one thing that we know is going to happen tonight.
I actually find that fascinating. Like, did he call Michigan and have to like, for people that don't know, Jim Harbaugh and Trent Baalke hate each other. They did not speak to each other when they were working for the same team in San Francisco. Like, do you think Baalke called up Harbaugh and was asking him about dudes, or you think he was like, I can't do it. Like, this is why I have an assistant GM, whatever.
No, no. I think he was just like, no, I just don't draft Michigan players. It's not what we do. It's not what we do here in Jacksonville anymore.
Players who played for Harbaugh. Cross.
Yeah, just
cross
pull the little magnet off the board.
Yeah.
So I feel like once we get to Jacksonville and they make their pick, then I feel like literally all hell breaks loose at that point, because I could see the Lions trading down. I could see the Lions going Sauce Gardner. I could see Aiden Hutchinson falling. You know, he could be the story of the first round. Like, why didn't anybody want Aiden Hutchinson?
I think that could happen. I think that's a sneaky storyline in this, just because, I mean, he tested well, but when you watch him, he doesn't really move like that. He doesn't move like a Kayvon. He doesn't move like a Travon. So it's probably going to go edge. So if it goes Travon Walker, Kayvon Thibodeaux, and then we're talking about maybe Sauce Gardner, maybe Derek Stingley at 3, then where does he go next? Because there's going to be a run on offensive tackles. There's going to be, a wide receiver or 2 go early. So Aiden Hutchinson, maybe, Rob, we're talking about him in Seattle at 9.
Oh, way to ruin the night early.
Glad I could help.
That's what we have to deal with. God, please.
I think that's a dream for Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah, right.
Because they're just like, we're taking a linebacker or something at number 9. If that happens, they'd have to be thrilled. I think that would be shocking.
Pick's in.
The pick is in.
Ooh, let's go, Raj.
5 minutes were left on the clock.
I'd be kind of shocked if the Lions take Sauce Gardner, if they take a cornerback at number 2. After, I know it's like a different regime now, but like after just taking Jeff Okudah a couple years ago, I'd be kind of shocked if they did that at number 2.
That would be. Oh, sorry. Let me just sneak this in because I'm so proud that I know it. That would make Sauce Gardner the highest drafted cornerback in the history of the NFL.
Whoa.
No one's ever gone higher than 3. Jeff Okudah went 3. That was the record. So if Sauce goes 2, he would be the highest drafted corner ever in the history of the National Football League.
So then the Lions can say, like, we are the only defensive backfield in the NFL with 2 top 3 cornerbacks ever in the NFL draft.
That Dan Campbell might do it just to say that he did that, just to have that record achievement. That'd be funny.
Well, it's got to be the only record that Dan Campbell can put his name next to. So, all right, let's welcome in from Bleeding Green Nation, my co-host on the SB Nation NFL on Tuesdays on the Oddcast, Brandon Lee Gouton. BLG, thanks for hopping in here. How you doing?
I'm doing great, guys. What do you think is a bigger guest spot, me right now here or Ice Cube at the NFL draft?
Not even close. It's you here.
Obviously. Thank you, Kyle.
I didn't even know Ice Cube was at the NFL draft. I missed that. That's totally got over my head.
He's not even that big of a deal.
Yeah.
So I know that, they're not supposed to do this, but I'm seeing on Twitter the pick is in, and it is, in fact, Travon Walker to the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Wow. I was listening to you guys.
I hope everybody stuck with the bets and took him number 1 overall, because a lot of people should have cashed on that.
Oh, yeah. So that's pretty interesting, because I was looking at mocks pre like post Senior Bowl pre-combine, right around late February, early March, and Travon Walker was being mocked number 45. Like he was in the middle of the second round, and now he's a number 1 overall pick. When does that happen? We don't really see rises like that, man. That is nuts to me.
I feel like
he was going to the Eagles back in like Todd McShay's mock draft that I'm looking at that I wrote about for BGN in February at number 16. So yeah, it's kind of been a big rise. At the time, I didn't even like that. I was like, what are we talking about here with a guy who has 9.5 sacks in 20, was it 29 games or so? Or I forget the exact number. I lost it here. I had it. 29 games, 1 forced fumble. I mean, I guess there's some truth to, Georgia not having the most productive sack rushers. You look at Walker, you look at Jordan Davis, Devontae Wyatt. These guys aren't like filling up the stat sheet, but I kind of wonder.
Arm length. Don't sleep on it with Trent Buckley. What was it, KP? 32 and 1/8 inches for Aiden Hutchinson, 35.5 inches for Travon Walker. I mean, I'm not saying prove me wrong. That's what I'm saying.
And
what's next? What happens next now? Does Aiden Hutchinson go to his hometown team?
So, like, if you're the Lions, like we were just talking about teams that need good stories, right? Jags obviously needed one after the hellscape that was the Urban Meyer error. The Lions could really use a win, even for one night. Like, get Aiden Hutchinson. Maybe, his ceiling is not as high as some of the other people in the draft, but I feel like his floor is also very high. If you're the Lions, don't you just need like a solid, really good contributor? I know you're trying to shoot for that more with the number 2 overall pick, Steven, but like you also can't have another bust.
I think it's also like they need a pass rusher. And I am in favor of Sauce Gardner going number 2 overall because I like chaos, and I think that would be a little chaotic for the rest of the board and just the way these things wind up playing out. But they need a pass rusher bad. Like they do not have a good depth chart right now in Detroit. Like they've got Michael Brockers and Charles Harris, but they need another body there. They need a young playmaker that they feel like they can lean on. And so I think it would make the most sense, right? Like that guy was consensus number 1 until a month ago when we started hearing Travon Walker, and Trent Baalke loves Travon Walker. Mm-hmm. And now he's the number 1 overall pick. I just find it hard to believe in a draft where it seems like everybody is down on the class kind of overall that guy really slides past the Detroit Lions right here.
The pick is in, so Detroit's not messing around. I like that, Leg. Let's keep this thing moving here. Want to say thank you, KP, for hopping in here. My brother at arms at Niners Nation. You can check out everything KP writes there. Plus, you can hear his podcast, the Shannon Plan podcast. That comes out on Wednesdays on the Niners Nation Podcast Network. Kyle, you make us all smarter, man. Thanks for hopping in.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. Take care. Thanks for having me.
No Debo Samuel trade, right?
I don't think it's going to happen. I don't.
God, I hope
it's going to be a slow night for us. Settle in.
Good. That's what John Lynch said. Thank you, Kyle. BLG, I put it to you because I have said that your Eagles are a sneaky Debo Samuel team. Like if a team is going to do it, the Eagles have the picks. They have the GM that's willing to make a move. Do you think they do it?
I don't think it's what their perceived timeline is right now. I don't think they're ready to go all in. Like that's kind of what this offseason was about. I mean, they tried to make some big moves, such as trade for Calvin Ridley and signing Allen Robinson and all of that, but ultimately it didn't happen. And, they added Hassan Reddick. That's cool. But also, where is he from? Philadelphia. They added Kaiser White. Where is he from? Like a couple hours north of Philadelphia. So the main players they could attract are like local guys, which is fine. But yeah, I don't think they're going to go after Debo. They have the picks, to your point, to do it. But I think kind of more to Steven's point here, I think they're really a big contender to trade up. There's a lot of buzz. They're going to look to get an edge. So I don't think they're going to be making a big trade for Debo.
The Lions are not messing around. I love the way they're doing this. The pick is in. It has been made. It is Aiden Hutchinson of Michigan going to Detroit after all. I like this move, honestly. Like, you also need somebody to just identify, right? Like, if you were going to buy a Lions jersey right now, whose jersey are you buying? You're not buying Jared Goff's jersey. Are you buying Amon-Ra St. Brown? Like, he was
DeAndre Swift for me.
a running back jersey that's going to be good for like 2 years. Like, you need somebody here that the fans can latch onto, so they go with Aiden Hutchinson. I like the move, BLG.
So do I. I mean, how could they not do this? I mean, he's like throwing out the first pitch at the Tigers game a couple days ago. They're gonna like outrage their fan base by overthinking this and not taking him. I mean, it's not only that he is local. Obviously, he's obviously coming off a really great season for Michigan, where he seemed like the consensus number 1 overall pick for a long time with 14 sacks, 16 and a half tackles for loss, 2 forced fumbles. I think he's the real deal. I think this is a really good pick for Detroit. I'm especially excited to see what else they do tonight because, they pick at the very end of the first round, or at least currently, that number 32. So maybe they get their elite pass rusher here. Maybe a quarterback, depending on how these quarterback situation plays out, falls to them at 32. I think it could be a really foundational night for the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, I think if they go to bed tonight and their head hits the pillow and they have Aiden Hutchinson and a quarterback that they like, who they, like you said, they sneak in and get that extra 5th year. Like, if you're a Lions fan, you've had a good night, Steven.
And so their roster's bad. Like, they are a bad football team. And I thought they were going to be hands down the worst team in the NFL last year. But Dan Campbell, to his credit, got a lot more out of that team than he should have. And what were they, a 2-win football team last year? I think at one point during the NFL season, I was like, they are the best 2-win football team I have ever seen, because every week they were taking teams down to the wire. And then they had that one game, and it was during Arizona's collapse, where they just railroaded the Cardinals. I think Dan Campbell gets a lot out of his players, and you had no pass rush, and you just don't have a lot of talent. Like you just said it, there's 2 guys maybe on this team that you would buy a jersey for if you're a Lions fan. So I think that's the easy move there. I know we talked about Sauce Gardner, and they just picked Jeff Okudah. I just did not see them taking a cornerback again that high, because I don't think you can do that. And, I think Sauce Gardner is going to be a really good player, but those aren't foundational players that you build your franchise around and that sell you tickets to games and stuff like that. Aiden Hutchinson might be that. So I think it's a smart pick for them.
How many times have we ever said that about the Detroit Lions? Okay, the Houston Texans are on the clock. The pick is reportedly in at number 3. They're another team where just pick a position and you pretty much need somebody at that spot. They have multiple first-round picks. Where do we think Houston's going to go? Is this the Sauce Gardner spot, BLG?
I feel like Sauce is one of the very few prospects in this class where can we all just agree he's really awesome and there aren't a lot of red flags there.
The sauce bottle chain. Yeah.
Yes.
I was I'll take him number 2 for that chain alone. Let's go.
The interview he had with Stats here, and it was great on the SB Nation NFL show. So yeah, a lot of green flags. I feel like they should go that way, but it's the Texans. Remember, the Houston Texans, who kind of maybe can't be trusted in this regard. So I don't know. This is kind of really where the draft starts, right? We all had a good idea it was going to be Hutchinson and Walker, at least in some order, 1, 2. But now it's really getting interesting.
I just saw this, BLG. I just saw that you dropped this in the chat. Travon Walker was in a serious car accident, according to Ian Rappaport, in Georgia before the draft, crashing into 2 parked cars, according to Rap Sheet and Tom Pelissero. He emerged without injury, no citations, but a scare for sure. That man is walking on water right now.
Well, that's why he was the number 1 overall pick, because apparently he's just Bruce Willis from Unbreakable. He's just a superhero.
Think about that. What a week for that. That's unbelievable. I know we were just talking about Sauce, but I just saw that and that's blowing my mind.
I'm laughing. Obviously, it's very scary. I'm not trying to, minimize that, but it's just how insane is that? You literally just picked, and then this comes out, and it's wait, is this is the exact kind of tweet you would see from fake Rap Sheet, trying to troll someone and just get retweets and trick everyone. I had to double check. I was this is real. That's thankfully, I guess he's okay. That's really scary. That's not I feel like the best signal or the best vibes maybe to the start of the Travon Walker era in Jacksonville. Wow, crazy.
Well, speaking of crazy, we have our first surprise of the night. In a night that's going to be filled with multiple surprises, the Houston Texans have made their selection. They decided to go with a defensive back. They didn't take Sauce Gardner. They went with Derek Stingley, Steven.
Yeah, and I actually this was a terrible time for KP to jump out because we've talked a ton about it on the Wednesday show. I know KP loves Derek Stingley, and Derek Stingley is a stud. I think he's coming off of an injury, which is why people thought maybe he would slide. But the last time he was fully healthy in college football, he was legitimately one of the best players in the country, not just like the best cornerback, like legitimately an argument to be one of the 3 best players in college football that season. And it seems like the Texans are going with upside there. And I think he's got all the upside in the world to be like a legitimate lockdown corner. And again, like the Detroit Lions, why you have the number 3 overall pick in the draft is because the Texans are bad and they've got holes all over their roster. So I don't think they could have gone wrong in a lot of ways there. They could have drafted anybody and I would have been like, that's a good move for Houston because your roster is terrible. But I think Derek Stingley's a really good player. So I actually really like the pick for Houston.
BLG, do you agree with the philosophy of number 3 overall pick taking a corner, what you perceive as a lockdown corner? Do you agree philosophically with that idea?
Well, I have a question for you quickly. Does this mean Derek Stingley is now the highest drafted corner? I forgot your nugget there. Or did he have to be taken at 2 for that?
He had to be taken at 2. So he's tied with Jeff Okudah now at 3.
Gotcha.
So no, we do not have that record, unfortunately.
I think it's a little bit of a crazy pick to me. Now, hear me out. I get the upside. He was absolutely sensational in his 2019 season at LSU, their championship year. I mean, 6 interceptions, 15 passes defensed. Like, obviously made a lot of plays. But 2019 is a long time ago, guys. Like he played.
Don't I know it?
Yeah, in 10 games since then. And there's some question marks about effort. And obviously the injury, like there's a lot of red flags there for the number 3 overall pick. I'm not going to say that again, maybe the Texans should take this big swing just because they're moving nowhere. So why not try to just risk it all for a star? But I just feel like there's so many red flags here. Like this is a lot of red flags for a number 3 overall pick.
And now we get to one of my favorite parts of the draft because the New York Football Jets are on the clock. And every time the Jets are on the clock, they play my favorite piece of production that ESPN has ever produced, the montage of horrible Jets draft picks that I love, including when the commissioner says Jets take first round selection, fullback, and some dude in the background goes, "Oh no!" It makes me laugh every single time. But now you're on the clock. You're the Jets. And I'll give you the last word on this, BLG, before we let you go. I mean, you've got Sauce Gardner sitting there, which I feel like a New York team has to draft him so we could see the headline applesauce tomorrow. You've got Thibodeaux is still sitting there for you. What are you doing if you're the Jets at 4?
So I think the big focus in theory, and knowing Joe Douglas like I do, because he used to be with the Eagles before he became the New York Jets general manager, I think he's thinking in the trenches here. I would think you'd be thinking, why not the first offensive tackle off the board? And it seems like there's this, I don't understand fully what's going on with Mekhi Becton in New York and why he might not be there for the long term or his future, but it seems like there is some uncertainty there. So I think they want to fortify the offensive line and help out Zach Wilson, because if you don't help Zach Wilson, I don't know what like a good corner really does for your roster otherwise. And you look at what position Joe Douglas is in. He's been there for multiple years now. I feel like you need to start seeing some results. And I think the best way to do that is to give Zach Wilson some help. So I feel like they should go with the first offensive tackle here.
Well, there you go. That's the word from Brandon Lee Gouton from Bleeding Green Nation. Also, you can hear him on the SB Nation NFL show. Also, you can hear him on the NFC East mixtape, which appears on the podcast feeds of all 4 NFC East teams. Apparently, you don't do sleep, BLG.
It's true. But all right, guys, I'll see you around.
Thanks for hopping in here. I'm amazed that we talked about who could drop, and it's Sauce Gardner right now that is falling. I never thought we'd live in a world where that would be the case. Let's welcome in another guest here on the SB Nation Live draft coverage. That would be from Blogging the Boys, our Dallas Cowboys team community. My co-host on the SB Nation NFL show on Thursdays. On the look ahead, RJ Ochoa. What's up, RJ?
How goes it, guys? Great to be with you. What's up, Kentucky? Having a great start to the NFL draft. I'm excited. I'm enthused. I am caffeinated, if that isn't obvious, and I have another coffee that is on the way very soon.
On the way? Who's delivering this coffee?
Myself, my wife is with the baby. The dog is nestled by my feet, but I'm going to go to the Nespresso machine when I get off of here on my way back to the Blog and the Boys show and close the blind, if you really want to know. That's my my next course of action.
So we have 3 defensive players at the top of the draft. The first time that has happened since 1992, which is basically the last time the Dallas Cowboys got to the NFC Championship game, pretty much.
Thank you.
That was kind of a surprise, Steven. What do you think happens at 4? Like, I don't know. You can't pass on a lockdown corner. You can't do it. They're impossible to get.
I mean, I don't know if I agree with that. Like, I think that the Jets, like BLG was just saying, like, I don't know what is going on with Mekhi Becton. He was injured last year. And then there was a report, like, I think last week, that his trainer is working with him to get him under 400 pounds because he put on a lot of weight, like, during his injury. And they've got to help Zach Wilson, and I know they've got another pick at 10, and Robert Saleh is the head coach, and he's a defensive-minded guy. I just think that it would make a lot more sense if you like Kayvon Thibodeaux or somebody like that to take an edge rusher here. But again, we do love Sauce, so I wouldn't be surprised, and I know that Robert Saleh is going to want to find his cornerback. So I don't think you can miss with that. I think that would be a good pick. I just don't know if that's where I would go.
Well, we know that's where the New York Jets went. The pick is in. It is Sauce Gardner. Applesauce better be the headline in one of the New York papers tomorrow. That's all I'm saying. I had the chance to talk with him this week, and I would be a terrible scout because I loved the dude. Loved him. I asked him, like, hey, you're in Vegas. You're going to get picked at the top of the draft. Like, are you going to go out later and party? He was like, I don't go out. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't gamble. I study film, I practice, I play Call of Duty, and that's all I do. And I was like, dude, I would so pick you. Like, that is what you want to hear from your first round draft pick, especially at number 4. The Jets take Sauce Gardner. I'm not surprised, and I think it was a good move, RJ.
First of all, you really messed up your awesome headline. Kelsey Conway, who covers the Cincinnati Bengals, tweeted the headline you're looking for is big applesauce. That's what you're missing. Stats. The
big is implied.
It's not implied. It's not implied. Very Dwight Schrute of Sauce to be like, I don't take, I never get sick, whatever. I don't believe in holidays, etc. Like, all I do is work. I love this move for the Jets. I do think this is like, okay, Robert Saleh. Okay, like, you're supposed to be this defensive guru, this defensive wizard. Like, you're supposed to be amazing. You got an amazing corner now. Like, let's start to see some results. Like, the Jets, I honestly feel bad for Sauce Gardner. Like, this is like, how many is okay, because like now he has to live in the shadow of Darrelle Revis, and how many like corners have the Jets thrown big money at in free agency? Like, it just doesn't work. Like, you can't do it by yourself there. Like, there is a perpetual like funk you have to get over. I did want to very quickly, we have our own show going to Blog on the Boys, so I did not see this. Did Aiden Hutchinson propose after getting drafted? Did you guys see this?
I didn't see that.
I just saw this on Twitter. I think he proposed like literally right after being drafted. That's pretty sick. A former, guest of the SB Nation NFL show as well.
I don't know if I love that.
That's a must say yes situation, right? You can't embarrass
a partner in a tough situation there.
Right. Like that. If I was who the person he was proposing to, I might just be like, yes, and then deal with it later.
What's funny is, if you'll recall,
about this later.
Well, so the Lions drafted Eric Ebron in the first round, and I don't remember. I think it was like the day after, because I think that draft was still in New York. They were like touring the Empire State Building or something, and he proposed then. So like, this is a thing now for like incumbent Lions rookies, is to propose. Like, it's a tradition unlike any other at this point.
So I feel like we are flying through. So we are going to be here with you for the first 10 picks. We're already at pick 5. After we get to pick 10, we're going to hop out of here. We're going to go to a Twitter space. So if you have questions about what's happened, comments, things you want to say to us, we'll have the Twitter space. You could hop in, make your comment. We'll have an actual conversation, because sometimes this can get a little one-sided. But we are already almost halfway through this thing, fellas. The New York Giants are on the clock. They've got a whole new regime there. Adios, Dave Gettleman, Mr. I know what a championship team looks like. He was terrible. They're not picking up the 5th round option on Daniel Jones, so quarterback is an option. Steven, where do you think the Giants are going to go here?
Again, they've got a ton of needs. I think that they're going to go offensive lineman or pass rusher. I think, again, I just don't understand why Kayvon Thibodeaux is sliding so much. Like, I don't really get it. It doesn't really make sense to me that we're talking about him like possibly falling out of the top 10. I think that would be a good move for the New York Giants. I think that they probably would have taken Sauce Gardner if the Jets didn't just take him, but they could still use help along the offensive line. So I think Ekwanu would be a stellar addition for them, or Evan Neal, whichever guy you have higher on your board. I think that's where they go, and I don't think you can go wrong with either one.
RJ?
First of all, I don't think Aiden Hutchinson proposed. I did my research while Steven was talking, so that's my bad. Just totally made that up out of nowhere. Yeah, I think New York has their pick of the tackles here, which was somewhat predictable, but, it's the right situation. I do think you mentioned the NFC's mixtape, Rob. Ed has talked so much about how, when we had him on, at least on the NFC's mixtape, how it would be so nice for the Giants to trade back. The Eagles kind of already executed the move that the Giants are really envisioning this particular draft. But I think that the board has fallen in a way that if you're the Giants, you can't. I think if you're the Giants, you have to take Kayvon Thibodeaux, then you have to see what the Panthers do, and then you take your tackle. And I think you feel very good about that. It's a bummer that you couldn't pick up a future first-round pick, but this is the best way that you could have gone about not doing that, if that makes sense.
Well, the pick is in for the Giants. I was just about to say, like, they seem to be taking their time. They have 5. They also have pick 7. This is like a tricky situation, right? Because then you fall into this trap of like, do we really want to take this guy at 5, or can we get him at 7? And then we could steal somebody else. Maybe they were taking calls. So far, we haven't had any trades. Halfway through the top 10 here, the pick is in for the Giants. I shouldn't say I don't like. It's tough for me when you have a new regime there, right? Because I feel like after a couple of years, you kind of get a feel for what people like, the types of players that they pick. Now with the Giants, I don't know what the hell they're going to do.
It sucks. It really sucks. It should be mentioned that the Giants and Steven, did you know that the Giants and the Jets are tied for the fewest amount of wins in the NFL since 2017?
I did not, but that is not shocking at all. That's not.
It's amazing when you it's not just that they're both from New York; it's that they literally share a stadium. Like, that's truly the level of ineptitude is astounding. But I'm really annoyed that this situation unfolded for the Giants. It sucks. I'll say that it sucks as a Cowboys fan.
Here's just any opportunity to rag on the NFC East.
Do you know what my job is? Like, do you know why they pay me here at SB Nation? Because it's literally to bring up the Dallas Cowboys.
I've been trying to figure that out for years, RJ. So please enlighten me. It looks like the pick is in, and it looks like the slide has finally ended. The New York Football
The slide
Giants.
to 5. What a horrible slide, by the way. Just you're barely a top 5 pick.
Steven, explain. It was a slide.
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, I would have seriously considered taking him number 1 overall. I think he's got a chance to be a really good player, but Kayvon Thibodeaux, I think, is going to be a stud. And the Giants taking him at 5, like, that to me says they were like, okay, that dude's the best available player on our board, and we're still confident that we're guaranteed either Ekwanu at 7 or Evan Neal or Charles Cross or whoever your top tackle is. So if I were them, I would have rushed up to the podium. Like, I don't need 10 minutes. Here's the pick. We're good. We're good. Let's move this thing along. Let's get to number 7 now.
It's a great pick for the Giants, which is super annoying. It's a fantastic pick because they still get their tackle. I really miss Dave Gettleman. That's how I feel right now. I really, really miss Dave.
So that's kind of like the barometer, right? Like, okay, this is the first impression of the new Giants regime. What are they going to be? Is it going to be more of kind of the same old clown show? And their first opportunity, they make what we think right now. And of course, we don't know, but what we think right now is a solid pick. And that would be my reaction exactly, RJ, as someone that would root for a team in the division, like, damn, all right, they might be a problem now. And so the pick is in, and the Giants get tips.
So now, like, I hate to be this guy, but like, now the draft starts. Like, we knew that this was going to be like some combination, like it was going to be some combination of these 5 generally. Like, maybe one of the tackles was going to go, but like the biggest question has been, Steven, whether or not the Carolina Panthers are going to take a quarterback. Yes. Does it happen? You have to literally bet your life on it right now.
No. I think they do take Kenny Pickett at some point. I think that Matt Rule is like, Kenny Pickett is my guy. He was a Temple commit at one point. Like, that is my dude. I am not leaving this draft without him, but I don't think they take it at 6. I don't think they're ballsy enough to do it at 6 because that roster, it needs a lot of work. Like they need offensive line help too. They need some help on their defense. So I don't think it would be smart for them. And they're a team that's supposedly really interested in trading back. So maybe this is a spot where it's running out of time. They'd have to do it quick. But maybe this is a spot where we see our first trade, because we haven't seen any trade movement so far, despite all this. Oh, teams are making calls and everybody's ready to move. Everybody's ready to fire up the board and move back and do all this stuff. We haven't seen anything of that, like that yet.
Stats. You're an East Coast person, so I want to ask you this.
Okay.
I don't know how often you go to the city. Like, are you that close in proximity that you call it the city, by the way?
No, I don't call it the city because it's not
some
the
people
only
do.
city in the country.
Karen
But
Filippelli called it the city. Jim
I'm like
Halpert,
an hour
it's
and
like a thing.
45 minutes. I'm an hour and 45 minutes.
Do you take
away.
the train?
Yes.
Okay, so you're close enough, like from a posterity
What
sense
do you
call it
want
the city.
to ask me?
I heard Kayvon Thibodeaux on the Around the NFL podcast this week, and he said, like in consideration for where he was going to live, he was like, yeah, it's like I'm either going to have a 2-bedroom apartment in New York or a mansion in Detroit. It's just really funny to think about the difference in lifestyle that comes with this particular thing, this particular avenue, specifically when it comes to the Giants. You can go live in New Jersey, the suburbs. Nobody likes it, but it's a tough scene now for Kayvon Thibodeaux. One of the reasons the Giants suck.
This is the first clench point for me in the draft. I'm puckered up right now because I do not want the Carolina Panthers to take a quarterback because I cover the 49ers. And if they don't take a quarterback, the Carolina Panthers do not pick again until 137. That is 4th round. So if they don't take a QB, it is entirely possible that they are planning to trade for Jimmy Garoppolo after the draft. So I don't care who Carolina picks. Just don't let it be a guy, RJ, that chucks the ball.
I think it's hilarious how you have now made our draft coverage about Jimmy Garoppolo because you make everything else about Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy, speaking of places to live, lives rent-free in your head, Stats. So, I mean, I saw a tweet right now from the Ringer's Kevin Clark. He tweeted out, "Somebody trade up for a quarterback." Come on, that's how I feel. Like, just do something. Like we've like Steven, you said like Adam Schefter is more like, oh, one GM told me this is the craziest draft in 30 years. Well, holy crap, Adam! I bet 31 years ago was insane then. But yeah, like where is the wild factor? This is all very chalk essentially.
So what I am going to be devastated if this happens right here is them selecting Malik Willis, because I really like Malik Willis and I want to see him go to a good situation, and Carolina is not a good situation. Kenny Pickett, sorry, Kenny, you might be a good dude. I don't know you personally, but I don't think you're going to have a successful NFL career. So I think it'd be funny if they took you at number 6. Don't take Malik Willis here, please, Carolina. That is the only thing that I care about right now.
Are we going to see an offensive player come off the board? We've had 5 straight defenders. This is unbelievable. In terms of Malik Willis, when what's his name? I'm sorry, I'm blanking. Oh, Brian, the guy with the giant suit in New York, Ben McAdoo. I'm sorry. When he comes out the other day and says Sam Darnold's our starting quarterback, and then says, "Oh wait, I probably actually shouldn't have said that." Like, that's not a good sign for Sam Darnold. You would think that they cannot go into the season with Darnold there. I know that there's a ton of options at 6, but man, at some point they have to get this thing right. And at least if you take Willis, there's hope there, right, RJ?
I don't know, dude. I mean, this is truly like an inflection point. Steven's one of the only people who gets this analogy. This is the chaos, like remedial chaos theory episode of Community right now. Because like you said, this is either Jimmy Garoppolo is about to be a Panther, or Baker Mayfield's about to be a Panther, or Malik Willis is about to be a Panther, or Kenny Pickett's about to be a Panther, or Sam Darnold gets to still be a Panther for who knows what reason. Like, we are about to go down one path. We are literally choosing our own adventure. And I don't know what feed you guys are watching. I have the NFL Network one up. What Panthers fans are in Vegas? How did the NFL find these people? And like one of them had a foam paw on their hand. Like who has that level of pride in these Panthers, Steven? Nobody. Surely nobody. Nobody's
that confident in Matt Rule or the Panthers as a franchise. That's them finding random people on the strip in Vegas and just being like, hey, we'll pay you $500 to go stand here and wear a Panthers jersey, just so it looks like we've got somebody here from every single team. There's no way there's any Panthers fans there. Not a chance.
Well, it looks like things are breaking right for my 49ers because the pick is in. We have our first offensive player of the draft. It is a tackle. Ekwanu from NC State is the pick. Carolina doesn't address the quarterback. They go offensive line, a little bit of protection for whoever the poor bastard is that they have back there.
It sucks. It sucks if you're the Panthers right now. Like, they have nothing. There's nothing of interest. Literally nothing of interest.
This is a fine pick, man. Come on.
I think it is a good pick. It's
a good pick, but they're so
Matt Rule
inconsequential.
And Sam Darnold aren't taking you anywhere. Like, there's nothing to feel good about. But like, their defense did have some playmakers last year. Like J.C. Horn before he got hurt looked like he was going to be really good last season as a rookie, and Brian Burns is a stud. And then they've still got DJ Moore, and they got nothing out of Terrace Marshall as a rookie, but they're hoping they get that. And Christian McCaffrey, there's some players on that team. It's just, I think that Matt Rule is just a lame duck head coach. And so I think this is a good move for them because their offensive line's bad, but it's not exciting.
I think the Panthers are boring and lame and mean nothing. They don't even like the Commanders suck, right? But at least if you're a Commanders fan, the Cowboys come to town once a year, right? Hey, we get some cool stuff. Like, if you're the Panthers, the Saints suck, the Falcons suck. Nothing about what you have happening around this organization is interesting on any level. Even you can't even build the proper infrastructure of a community. They can't even get the stadium or training ground or whatever, shopping center or whatever that they want. They just can't. It's just no, get a better logo, keep the colors, and let's just fix this. Get Matt Rule out of here.
Have a bad experience in one of the Carolinas.
I think that Matt Rule is super lame. He's the lamest head coach in the NFL. But it is what it is. Stats, I have one final question for you, if that's okay.
Yes, lay it on me.
Well, so Steven, if the three of us were Ninja Turtles, Steven is clearly Raphael because of the paraphernalia above his right shoulder, excuse me. I'm Donatello as the intellectual one. So who are you of the quartet?
The best one of all, Michelangelo. Hello. Who picks Donatello?
I would like to leave now.
Yeah, okay. You can go. RJ Ochoa from Blogging the Boys. Also, you can hear him on the SB Nation NFL show with me on Thursdays. The Look Ahead and the NFC East mixtape. RJ, thank you for the time.
You guys rock. Odoyo rules, and Dez caught it. Later.
Oh, let's bring in. We're upgrading now. We're going from RJ Ochoa to Justice Mosqueda from Acme Packing Company. What's up, Justice?
Say Dez caught it. He had to. Not factual. Did not stand. Have we talked about Derek Carr's hair yet?
No.
It looked absurd.
Is it still all puffy and slicked back? I haven't seen it.
It was like a mullet, but it looked like he was also trying to sell me penny stocks. Ekwanu just went number 6 on ESPN. Weird start to the draft, guys.
What are you guys basically? This is unbelievable.
2 zone teams decided to pick corners super high. We talked about this all year on our podcast, but Steven, how many times have you heard me and KP say the Houston Texans run the most bland defense of the league? All they do is spot drop zone. Lovie Smith looks like he's coaching football from the 1980s, and they're drafting a corner to just hang out and cover 2 and stuff. That's interesting. And then obviously the Jets. I mean, people made a big deal always about Legion of Boom and stuff like that, but I always thought that defense was actually built more by their front. And then you look at San Francisco, it's the same thing, right? It's, can we get pressure with 4? Can we get pressure with 4? To invest so much in a cornerback when, you have an open starting spot for a pass rusher opposite of Carl Lawson, who's coming off of, injury that cost him the entire season, that you were banking on him being that guy last year. I'm pretty shocked that this is how the draft is playing out, but I don't think anyone thought Icky was going to end up being there. I thought, most people assumed the Jets were going to end up taking him. So good for the Panthers. I just don't know if that's their one move that they can make, right? Their next pick is 146th or something like
137.
That. So, yeah.
And so we've talked about this, Justice. The Panthers are just pocketing cash right now in their cap for some reason.
$30 million, 50%
and
more than
it
any
would
other
probably make Stats really happy to think that that money is post-draft Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah, it is.
Because that makes sense at this point. You take a tackle number 6 overall and then go see if you can offer up a 4th or a 5th or something for Jimmy next year, and then you got to pay his salary and Sam Darnold's salary, which is $20-something million.
Yeah, and we got that report earlier today, right? That Sam Darnold had been let know by the team that they might pick a quarterback. So If they're not picking one at 6, right? All the quarterbacks were there. So if
Yep.
they wanted one at 6, they would have taken one at 6. Their next pick is day 3 now. I wonder if they make a trade instead.
I don't understand. Why are you notifying Sam Darnold that you might pick a quarterback? What's the worst thing that happens? He gets mad and doesn't want to play for you?
It's like weird agency stuff. Like they did the same thing. Like Trubisky's agent was told that the Steelers are going to try to pick a quarterback in the 1st or 2nd round, right? Like it's just how this stuff goes. Agencies have more power than players. You have to deal with them your entire career.
True.
Well, and now that Sam got past that 6th pick, he's probably like, okay, I'm good.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about this 5th
We
round.
got no more picks.
They're going to take.
Yeah.
Would you trade Jimmy for a 4th?
I would trade Jimmy for yes. If you called me and
would
said,
you trade Jimmy for a 7th? I want to see where this line is.
if you called me and said, we want Jimmy Garoppolo, we will give you, I would say yes before you finish the sentence. Honestly, even if they had to pay half of his money, I need to get off the Jimmy Garoppolo merry-go-round. I'm tired. It's been too long. I think there's only 3 quarterbacks in the league now at this point that have been with their team longer than Jimmy Garoppolo has been with the 49ers. It's like Dak Prescott, Patrick Mahomes, I think, and maybe like 1 or 2 other guys, especially because Matt Ryan just got traded. Like enough with that. And hopefully we are one step closer to that reality. The New York Giants are on the clock right now at number 7, their 2nd pick of the 1st round. The pick is in. Justice, where do you see the Giants going with their 2nd first-round pick?
So I think they're probably going to go tackle. I think we're probably seeing the tackle run right now. If the pick is in, they're not trading back. That's interesting. Charles Cross comes to mind, but I could see Evan Neal depending on how the medicals shake out. Like Neal just has a couple little things, nothing crazy, but like something that might be a tiebreaker if it comes down to those two. Cross is a great pass blocker. They both played an SEC schedule. You got to see them, both compete in the SEC West. So I think Cross, but Neal wouldn't surprise me. They already got their edge rusher. I mean, Kayvon, I think getting him at 4 was really cool.
Is this the run on tackle, Steven?
Yeah, I agree with him. And we were just kind of talking about it when they picked at 5. Like the fact that they were able to get Kayvon Thibodeaux at 5, I think is something that they had to have been thrilled about. Like that should have been like, okay, that guy's the best available player on our board and he doesn't belong here at number 5. So we got to take him, but they still need a tackle. And so, yeah, I think that makes sense. Like you sacrificed Ekwanu, who might have been their top tackle on the board, but you said, well, we get the consolation prize and Charles Cross or Evan Neal, and they actually just pick is in. It's Evan Neal is who the Giants took at number 7. So
works. They needed it. I mean, the Giants. I think there's 0 expectations in New York this upcoming year. Not in terms of like they're not trying to win ball games and like tank, but like the record isn't going to be held against anyone, right?
Yep.
You look at their entire backfield, right? They just turned down the 5th-year option for Daniel Jones. They said that, hey, Saquon Barkley can be had at the right price. Doesn't sound like a team that's like confident in what they have in the building. So like just getting cornerstone pieces like, hey, let's take the left tackle from Alabama, who's a big, giant dancing bear, and let's get Kayvon, who's a tremendous athlete on the edge. I mean, I think that works out for him.
And I think there's something to be said for, hey, we've got a lot of holes. We've got a lot of needs. Brian Daboll's there. He's got to get his system in. Let's just build this thing along the lines, right? We'll take an edge rusher and we'll take an offensive tackle and we'll just build it up along the lines until we kind of get ourselves established. And then we can kind of add like the lines are the foundation of the house. When you get to the running backs, the skill players, that's like the crown molding. You don't buy a house because of crown molding. You buy a house because of a solid foundation. And I feel like that's what the Giants are doing right now. They're making the foundation, Steven.
Yeah, I agree. I think both of their picks, like so far in the top 7, like I think if you're a Giants fan, you got to feel good about that. Like you got 2 players who have really high upside and can be possible day 1 contributors depending on the health of Evan Neal. Like they're both guys that could be day 1 starters for you as rookies. And so I think if you leave any draft with guys where you're like, you can go ahead and notch those dudes in to be day 1 starters when you hit training camp, like you got to feel good about it.
I like it. I think the Giants are making a smart move. I'm glad to see RJ is finally going to have some competition for his team in the NFC East. So let's hope that the Giants can get that thing up and running. Okay. We are at pick number 8. Now we get into the juicy part, okay? Because now there's actually potential for some quarterbacks to be taken. The Atlanta Falcons are on the clock. They've got about 6 minutes left. They need a quarterback. Marcus Mariota is, he's not anybody's long-term answer for anything. Falcons at 8, Seahawks at 9, thanks to the Russell Wilson trade. Those are both potential quarterback spots. Or do we see another team maybe try and trade up to get their guy? There's some juice now to this draft, Justice.
Yeah, Charles Cross being there. I mean, I thought, the trade-up option at either 6 or 7, that the New Orleans Saints could have moved up for Charles Cross. It seems like they really like him based off of all the pre-draft buzz. It's interesting because I don't know if Atlanta would make that trade with New Orleans, but they seem to be taking time with this. Mm-hmm. If they were going wide receiver, you think they would turn it in quickly. So I don't know if they're on the phones or what, but I could see New Orleans trading up to either one of these picks and grabbing Cross. If Seattle is there at 9, I don't know if they would trade out of it for Cross because they need a left tackle so bad, right? I mean, that's a guy that like everyone in Seattle is like, the top 3 tackles are going to be off the board by the time we pick. Well, we're sitting here and we're 1 pick away. If Atlanta goes wide receiver, very well could happen. So
wouldn't it be ironic if sorry, Steven, wouldn't it be ironic if the Seahawks started building up the offensive line after they've traded Russell Wilson? That's all. I just wanted to get that in.
I think there's a strong chance that they do that because it's so bad right now. Yeah. I think the Falcons are a legitimate wild card. This team has done nothing but get worse this offseason. Like they're just bad. They desperately need a wide receiver, but I don't know if you feel confident like any of these wide receivers going at number 8 right here. And I don't think I would be shocked if they just said screw it and took Malik Willis here, just because they know we got a strong chance of being really bad next year. So let's get a developmental quarterback, roll the dice with Marcus Mariota next year, and then see if we get like a top 5 pick next season.
I think they could have gone corner 2. This is where I had Sauce Gardner going. Honestly, the entire draft. I thought
you thought he was going to fall this low.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really did. Just the way that the need shook out, and I thought tackles were going to go a little bit earlier. Another guy I would say is Kyle Hamilton. Is a guy that kind of makes sense for Atlanta. Like a lot of people still think, relative to his position, he's the best player in this class, right? Atlanta desperately needs another safety next to Grant, who wasn't a great second round pick for him this past year. So I could see him going a lot of directions. I'd still, if I were to bet right now, I'd say wide receiver just based off of who's on the board, but we'll see. They made the pick, so I wouldn't imagine the Saints are going to be able to trade up at all. So Seahawks, I would assume, are going to get Charles Cross at 9. Which is,
oh boy, the pick I believe is in. The Atlanta Falcons have made the selection. You are on fire right now, Justice, because not only is the pick in, it is a wide receiver. It is Drake London is the selection for the Atlanta Falcons. Unbelievable. Finally, a skill player taken. First of all, yes, thank goodness. Before we get into the analysis of that, I want to welcome in Kate Majuk of DK Nation and the SB Nation NFL show. What's up, Kate?
Oh my gosh, I'm literally salivating right now at the thought of Drake London and Kyle Pitts in the same offense. Oh my God, I can't contain my drool. I also can't control my sweat because I'm just sitting here waiting for the Steelers to trade up for like Kenny Pickett or something really terrible. So
all right, we've got a lot of bodily function issues right now for you.
It's stressful, man. It's stressful being a team that needs a quarterback tonight specifically.
Let's get into, I don't want to get to the quarterback stuff like Kate said, but Steven, your reaction, Falcons wide receiver, Drake London.
I know their need at wide receiver was bad. Like, Calvin Ridley suspended and Olamide Zaccheaus is like their number 1 wide receiver right now. So like they desperately needed a pass catcher outside of Kyle Pitts. I didn't think that they were going to go wide receiver at number 8 though. I'm a little surprised by that. Like even knowing that they needed that, I just thought like this roster's got so many holes across the board. Like I figured maybe you find a more like foundational player than a wide receiver necessarily. But again, I think it's a good move. He's the top wide receiver for a lot of people. He's not necessarily my top wide receiver, but if he's the guy that you have there at number 8, then I think it's a good move, and it obviously fills a position of need.
Justice, if I told you that Drake London was going to be the first wideout off the board, would you have believed me?
No, I saw Drake put a bunch of money down on Drake London to be first wide receiver off the board earlier. And I was like, that's a dumb bet. I think it's going to be Jameson Williams or Garrett Wilson because those guys obviously have more speed. Drake London's a guy who probably, if it wasn't for that foot injury or ankle, he probably would have ran a 4.58. I think it makes sense for Atlanta, though, just because you look at kind of how their personnel works out. Like, they use wide receivers fewer than anyone else in the league. Like, they're so heavy with their 2 back sets, their 2 tight end sets, with the way that they use Cordero Patterson, that if you really want to play this like bully ball style, like you want to bring that Tennessee stuff to Atlanta, maybe it doesn't work if a wideout is the size of Jameson Williams. Maybe you do need big guys, right? And Drake London certainly gives that to you. I don't think it's a bad pick by any means. I just think it's kind of surprising. Here at 9, I would assume it's going to be Charles Cross, and we're off to the races with the wide receiver run now, right? Like we shouldn't expect this to stop at any point. With Jets at 10, Washington at 11, they should be coming off the board pretty soon.
Listen, I'm talking, Kate, you were talking about losing control and sweating. As we get closer and closer to pick 10, I'm just panicking that the Jets are going to make a Debo Samuel trade. But I like that your mind went right to kind of the fun part of this, which is the combination of Kyle Pitts and Drake London in Atlanta. You know, I was just saying the skill players of the crown molding. I think Atlanta still has plenty of foundational work to do along the offensive and defensive line, but I do also love the combination of Pitts and London there.
I mean, those are 2 foundational guys that, I mean, they are going to be I think both. We saw Kyle Pitts become an instant impact player, though he didn't have the touchdowns to match this year. Drake London is also a guy that I think is an instant impact player. He's not a big developmental project for me. He's a guy that I think year 1 can come in and have 10 touchdowns off the bat, and I would not blink an eye whatsoever.
Wow, that is bold. Like 10 touchdowns with Marcus Mariota.
Hey, we have seen Marcus Mariota be able to deliver a football not only to wide receivers, but also back to himself. So let's give the man some credit here, guys.
That is a good point. If you can complete passes to yourself, you got to have some skill there. Justice, thank you so much for the time. Appreciate you hopping in. Again, Justice Mosqueda, Acme Packing Company. You can hear him on the SB Nation NFL show as well. Thank you for making us all smarter, sir.
See you guys.
And we roll on. The Seattle Seahawks are next at number 9 on the clock. Steven, what do you think? Do you think it's done deal, tackle for the Seahawks, and we're on to number 10?
Yeah, I think that would make the most sense. I do think that Seattle is one of those teams that, like, they could go in a totally opposite direction and just blow the whole thing up and be like, but you have no offensive linemen. What are we doing here, Pete? Like, what is going on? But that makes the most sense, and I think that he's probably one of the best players left on the board, and it fills their absolute biggest need on their roster. So that would be the smart decision, but Seattle hasn't really made very good first-round picks lately, so I don't know if that's actually where they're going to go.
Hey, anytime, let's keep that streak going as far as I'm concerned. I want to bring in somebody new to the party here, Michael Peterson from Bolts from the Blue, our Chargers community here at SB Nation. Michael, thanks for hopping in.
Yeah, guys, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So here we are, Seattle Seahawks at 9. I am hearing rumors about who the pick is, but I haven't, according to what I'm seeing, the pick isn't in yet, so I don't want to spoil it. The consensus seems to be offensive tackle for the Seahawks at 9. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's probably the way for them to go as well. As Stephen was saying, they don't have an offensive line, and obviously getting rid of Russell Wilson, and you have guys like Drew Lock, Geno Smith back there. Neither of those guys are going to have success, and neither is Rashad Penny, who was kind of a little bit of a late season hero for them this past season. He's probably not going to find or continue that same success without an offensive line to run behind. And Cross is by far and away the best tackle left on the board. He's a big step up from Trevor Penning, who's roughly the guy, right below him. Exquisite, masterful pass protector. He's going to get the job done in the run game, but this guy has elite recovery ability. I've seen him get what looks like getting beat badly by an edge rusher just to have him stick his foot in the ground and get right back in front of his guy. I mean, this guy's an absolute technician. I think this is a home run pick for Seattle, and I think they need to run this pick up to the board.
the way it works, and the pick is now in. I was told by Mike Tannenbaum a couple years ago that they put the name on the card, at least the way he ran it. They put the name on the card, and then they say, read the name back to me, just to be sure that there literally is no confusion. And we have seen in the history of the NFL draft some crazy confusion. I actually read something yesterday that an old GM of the Washington franchise once traded the same draft pick multiple times and got away with it. So we've seen crazy stuff happen.
Of course it's Washington.
I know.
Of course Washington would be the team.
I mean, just imagine that happening today. Like, oh, okay, Trent Baalke has traded the number 1 overall pick to the Broncos, and then 2 days later, Trent Baalke trades the number 1 overall pick again. It would be just a fantastic story.
Twitter would like a word, I'm sure. Like the Twitter GMs of the universe would be instantly on that. Like I feel like we could trust all of our followers who are on us like white on rice. Like we could trust these guys to catch that pretty quickly and get it back to the commish. No problems. I don't think so.
Well, we look like geniuses because the Seattle Seahawks did take Charles Cross. They do shore up their offensive line. Michael, I said it earlier. Isn't it ironic that the Seahawks take a tackle now after Russell Wilson is gone, whose primary complaint was that he gets hit too many times?
I think too many of these teams that are struggling to find, a semblance of consistent success seem to do the right thing just a little bit too late. They either got rid of a piece they needed to pair with the new piece they brought in, or vice versa. And that's why some of these teams haven't found that sustained success time recently.
Yeah, that's why they're picking in the top 10 here. I think that's a good point.
I think I kind of believe that they actually think Drew Lock is a good quarterback.
What?
And then if they get him protection, they could get more out of him than
Drew Lock doesn't even believe Drew Lock is a good quarterback.
I agree. I think Drew Lock is like, what are you doing? Like, draft a quarterback or something.
You're not really going to go with me.
Let me get this Chase Daniel lifestyle going.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be a starter anymore.
Yeah, I think Drew Lock just said, oh crap, I have to work this year. Like that's probably just what happened there in wherever his home quarters are.
But this is like who Seattle is, right? Like Pete Carroll will go to the ends of the earth with his, we are going to run the ball, we are going to play tough defense, and we just want a quarterback to not screw it up, to not turn it over. And maybe what his thinking is if we just protect this guy, he'll be good enough if the rest of our team functions the way we hope it can, that he'll get us over the hump. The problem is, Michael, that the Seahawks defense is also trash.
Yeah, I mean, sucks for Seattle. Unfortunately, they only got one pick in first, and they have to use it on another big need, obviously, in offensive tackle. Seattle, man, I think recently I looked back on their draft history since 2013, and it is, I would say, one of the more rough stretches of drafting. He was able to capitalize on the Legion of Boom that was there, Russell Wilson, Marshawn Lynch, a lot of these types of players. But if you look at, especially at least the last 5 years, a lot of their first round picks have been pretty big reaches. I believe LJ Collier, who's a defensive end, he went in the first a couple years ago, and I think he was a consensus second, mid-second, late-round second player. And their history is littered with these types of players. And unfortunately, their record has also reflected their draft choices among these past 5 or 6 years. And again, it's why they're picking in the top 10.
Rashad Penny breakout coming. It's on the way.
Oh boy.
He's one of my favorite. He's going to be one of my favorite sleepers in the coming season. And I'm like, he's going to be available because I don't think anybody's going to project that the Seattle Seahawks are really going to be able to keep him going at the rate that he was going to close out the season. So bank it like Rashad Penny. I would say probably easiest RB2 finish in my book, in my bold predictions for next year.
I'll tell you what about Penny. So I picked him up late in my main league. It's a keeper league. We keep two players year to year. I picked him up. He helped run me through the playoffs. And then I all the way to the championship. And then on the championship day, I went thrifting with my wife and forgot to switch out the defenses. And I lost by less than what my defense scored. I kept the Bears, I think, in instead of the Giants. And the Giants scored 22 and the Bears scored like 2. and I lost by 15. So I lost.
Do you have a nightmare about that every night?
I think he does because he's talking about it months later.
I would have been the first 2-time winner of my league. This is like a league I did with high school and college friends. And I was having a great time thrifting. I won't even lie. But like, I just forgot. And I watched the trophies slide from my grasp. But Rashad Penny, I'm probably keeping him this year for all the reasons you just said.
I love it. Very good. You'll get your championship this year. I'm feeling it.
Now we're at the point of the draft where I am sweating because it's the 10th overall pick. It's the New York Jets. This was the pick that was rumored to be, if Debo Samuel was going to get traded, part of a Debo Samuel trade. I'm seeing rumors about who the pick is. I don't want to get too excited yet. I just give me deep. Just let me keep Debo, please. I literally just bought my son this autographed helmet. It's a Debo Samuel autographed mini helmet that he's letting me keep down here. It just got to my house this month. Can I please hang on to this thing for a little bit longer? The pick is in for the Jets. The pick is in. That is amazing. That means that they are not trading for Debo Samuel. The pick is in. This is fantastic news. Nobody had a better draft than me tonight right now, Steven.
Yeah. You never had to worry.
So far.
I told you earlier that Debo wasn't getting traded, and I think that their asking price was just too much, and the Niners wanted to get back in the first round if they moved him, and I don't know if the Jets were ever actually offering up number 10 overall, but it makes sense to take a wide receiver right here because they were in on the Tyreek Hill trade too. The Dolphins were able to sweeten it a little bit more by offering a late first round pick where the Jets were packaging second round picks to the Chiefs. So they need a wide receiver. I think that's where they have to go here.
So it looks like, according to a tweet from Niners Nation, Ian Rappaport said on NFL Network that the Jets offered number 10 overall and a pick swap later to the 49ers for Debo, but that the trade didn't materialize by tonight. Yeah, you were going to have to do better than that because the Niners price on Debo Samuel was going to be way, way more than that. The theory that I sort of fleshed out last night was that the Niners don't want to trade Debo, and then they're like, hey, then we've got months to figure it out with him and to try to make him happy again. The pick is in for the New York Jets, and they did go wide receiver, but they didn't obviously trade for Debo Samuel. Instead, they go Garrett Wilson from Ohio State. I had the chance to interview Garrett this week for the SB Nation NFL show. He seems like a fantastic guy. He said that his one answer that blew away the coaches when he talked to them was that he knew the difference in the rule when it comes to punt returns between college and pro. And that like blew one of the coaches' minds. And the fact that he knew that, like, I don't know, I bought into it a little bit. When I get the chance to talk to these people, I fall in love with all of them. Michael, your first reaction, Garrett Wilson to the Jets.
I'm not surprised he went in the first round. This is a little bit higher than I think a lot of people expected him to go. I think, if anything, he might have been a consensus wide receiver 4 in this draft behind Jameson Williams, despite the ACL injury, and his teammate Chris Olave. But at the end of the day, Garrett Wilson still has wheels. I think he ran somewhere 4.37, 4.38, was also very successful in Ohio State offense, despite playing with Chris Olave and their third guy, who's also very talented. They needed a wide receiver. They really did. I think this guy paired with Elijah Moore hopefully creates a really nice duo for Zach Wilson to find some ground in the NFL in just terms of consistency and being able to live up to his first round, status from last season. I like the pick. I just think it's maybe, probably about 8 to 10 picks higher than I think most people thought.
Oh, unmute myself. That'd be good. Garrett Wilson ran a 4.38 40-yard dash. Kate, question for you. Did the Jets take Garrett Wilson just so they could have the Wilson to Wilson connection?
I sincerely hope so, but I think this was like the perfect pick for the Jets. I think Garrett Wilson, just such a solid wide receiver, a nice compliment to Elijah Moore. And I think they get sort of what they needed here. Like all of the potential trades we heard about the Jets potentially trading Elijah Moore in that package with the 49ers to get Debo, like none of that made sense. You want to put playmakers around your young quarterback, get the Wilson to Wilson connection. I think Garrett Wilson's just a very pro-ready guy. There's not a lot that he can't do. We were all hyped on the Chris Olave 40-yard dash time. Like Garrett Wilson just beat him out by like a millisecond there. And nobody's talking about Garrett Wilson's 40 time. It's kind of crazy. He just gives the Jets everything that they need and everything that you want, I think, for your young developing quarterback.
So, Stephen, what do you think of the Jets draft so far? Nobody, I shouldn't say nobody. Most people had them, I think, trading one of the picks. They don't trade either of the picks. We didn't get a single trade in the top 10. Do you like what the Jets have done tonight?
If I were them, like I mentioned earlier, I would have taken Kayvon Thibodeaux, but they get their corner in Sauce Gardner and they get a wide receiver, which are both positions of need. And I think they're both good players. I think they're both day one contributors for the Jets on a roster that is already young, but still needs a lot of playmakers. So I think that you should be happy if you're a New York Jets fan. Like I think that it could have been better, but I don't think that it's as bad as it could have possibly been. Like, I think you got two really good players here, so you should be happy with it.
Well, we're happy because we've got our first trade of the draft. The New Orleans Saints have moved up to pick number 11. They make the trade with, I believe, the Washington Commanders, if I have that right.
Yes, the Washington Commanders. Does this mean, oh God, please be trading up for Kenny Pickett? Please.
I think this might be a quarterback because they need an offensive tackle, but the top three offensive tackles are already off the board, and
this is a quarterback.
But
they should not be trading up for Trevor Penning.
Who are they leapfrogging that would have taken, if it's a quarterback, who are they leapfrogging that maybe would have taken that quarterback besides, I don't know, Houston, if they're not super sold on Davis Mills? Just seems like a weird place for them to jump up, especially if it is a quarterback, despite me really hoping it is a quarterback.
That's interesting, right? Because you're right. I mean, all the quarterbacks are still on the board. So even a team like Pittsburgh is like, hey, maybe we don't have to do anything crazy here. We can kind of sit back and get the guy we want. Maybe New Orleans had something, right? I talked with Scott Pioli. I'm just going to mention everybody I talked to this week as we do the broadcast. But his point was sometimes you get word specifically that some team is going to do something, and it's almost like poker. You know, with poker, they say it's the best game to play at the casino because you don't play the house, you play the man, right? Well, it's the same thing in the draft. Sometimes you have to kind of use your intel to figure out what the other GMs are doing, and if you got to hop over somebody, you do it. Clearly, the Saints did. They are number 11 right now. They got just about 3.5 minutes on the clock. Are we sure that it's Pickett for New Orleans? Is there any chance that it's anybody else, Michael?
You know, I think quarterback makes a little sense, and this might be a little bit of a conspiracy theory, but Minnesota last year took Kellen Mond. Now, Kirk Cousins is there. He's going to be their quarterback this season. But at the end of this past season, when the Vikings were not making the playoffs, instead of letting Kellen Mond play, see what they got in this pick, they had, I believe it was Browning playing, and it was one of the worst offensive performances of like any team last season. It was just an abysmal game to watch if you were a Vikings fan. And so I just think about that, and I'm like, well, will the Vikings surprise a lot of people? Like in a situation where no other quarterback has been taken, they have all the quarterback options on the board for them. Do they take the guy that they see taking over for Kirk Cousins? And if that's the case, if New Orleans got word of that, then maybe this is New Orleans jumping in front of them to make sure they get their pick of quarterback instead of maybe leaving it up to Minnesota to potentially do just that.
That's a fact. You know, I didn't think about that, but that is an interesting theory. I'm loving that we finally have a trade up. 2 minutes to go here. You know what? I'm going to do it. Let's go. Let's add a fifth person in the pool here. The very dapper, the best dressed person of the evening from Arrowhead Pride and the SB Nation NFL show, Pete Sweeney. Pete, where are you right now?
Yes, the Arrowhead facility right behind me. We're going to talk to Brett Veach. Probably about, I would guess, 11:30 p.m. local time, sometime late, because the Chiefs are picking 29 and 30. I'm kind of patiently watching here because I was hoping Jameson Williams would fall to a window here for Kansas City to maybe nab him, but I tend to think maybe this is where he goes.
What is the...
Whoa.
Okay, so we got a little bit of a surprise here because the pick is in with the New Orleans Saints, and according to what I'm seeing, and somebody correct me if you think I'm wrong, the Saints are going with Chris Olave at number 11.
So that was going to be like my next guess outside of quarterback was wide receiver because they desperately need a wide receiver. Like their wide receiver group right now is one of the worst in the NFL. And, you know, they might get Michael Thomas back and healthy, but we basically haven't seen him play in 2 years and don't really know what he's going to look like. But trading up, I think that they must have said, like, that's our number one wide receiver, and we can't believe that Olave is still on the board. And so they just moved up and got him because in my opinion, there's still a lot of guys on the board that you could have just sat back and not traded away those picks for, but they must have said that's our star wide receiver. We got to go get him.
Kate, what do you think of Olave to New Orleans?
I think, especially if you keep Michael Thomas in the mix there, again, like a lot of these guys, I genuinely think, especially the wide receivers here, it can be day one impact players, especially if you throw Michael Thomas back into that mix. I'd love to see the two of them stay together. I know there's been some like tumultuous discussions between like Michael Thomas and the Saints, but I mean, imagine Jameis Winston chucking that ball down the field. Like that could be an instant fantasy gold mine because Chris Olave is just so smooth. He's a real technician at the wide receiver position. Might take some getting used to with the Jameis guns, but like, again, can be a day one contributor, which I think what a steal for the Saints.
Kate, thank you very much for the time tonight. We appreciate you hopping in. You made us all smarter.
Thanks, guys.
So the terms of the trade, I'm just looking on Twitter now. The Saints gave up the 16th pick, a 3rd rounder, and a 4th rounder to Washington. That seems kind of cheap to me, Stephen.
Yeah, I don't think it would actually cost them that much to really move up, but there's another trade now. The Lions have just made another huge jump up from.
I love it. Here we go.
It's got to be a quarterback, right?
They were what? They were 32, and so that means they just traded up with the Minnesota Vikings at number 12, and now the Lions are on the clock. So now we got trades. Now we got some action coming in the NFL draft.
There we go. Oh, we just lost Pete Sweeney. All right, let's see if we can get Pete Sweeney back. I hope nothing happened to Pete. He was outside the Arrowhead facility here. I like to think, okay, is he back? Pete, what happened? We lost you.
Sorry.
I didn't know if like Brett Veach wanted to, grab you for a quick huddle up, before the pick or strategy session or what. Oh, apparently he's gone again. All right.
I don't really know what's going on right now. Austin Eckler and Tony Gonzalez are at the podium. I'm not really sure what's happening.
I'm not here for that. Like, just make the picks. Like, we can do this on a conference call if we really had to. I don't need a dog and pony show. Nothing against those guys.
There's a guy wearing a Marcus Peters Chiefs jersey, too. I'm not really sure what's happening on stage.
Oh, they're announcing the first Thursday night football game, which is Chiefs at Chargers.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
September 15th. Okay, so
it's the first prime Thursday night football game, right?
Yeah, so that's September 15th would be what? That's the Thursday after week 1, so the first game of week 2.
Great. Fantastic. So the Lions
Chiefs
go
and Chargers. Woo.
32 to 12. Again, all the quarterbacks are on the board. Dan Campbell, kind of a wild card, Michael. Which quarterback, if he goes that way, I should take that off the screen. If he goes that way, what quarterback do you think he'll take?
I think just as a guy who spent plenty of years on the same team with Drew Brees, I think you look at a guy like Kenny Pickett, who's got a little smaller in stature, but got a good arm, good placement, decent enough athleticism to actually make plays with his legs if given the chance. I want to will and manifest Kenny Pickett here. I guess that's all I'm going for. I want Kenny Pickett to be in the NFL so bad with his 8 1/4 inch hands. I just think he's such a cool success story, and he's going to defy all these odds of measurements and lengths and stuff like that. And, I think this is a good spot for him.
Yeah, I think if it were me, I would take Malik Willis. Like, I think he is a project, but I think it's a reasonable situation for him, as reasonable as a situation as Detroit can be, because Jared Goff is going to be the starter, and Malik Willis has like those athletic tools that you covet. And he's also really dynamic with his legs. And, he's not a super tall quarterback, but he's still got a big arm. Like, I really like Malik Willis's upside. And there was a point in the offseason where we're preparing for the draft where I didn't think it would be shocking for the Lions to take Malik Willis at number 2. So trading up to number 12 and possibly getting him here, I think that's actually pretty good value for the Lions.
Let's welcome in Pete Sweeney, who's back with us. Pete, Lions make the big move. They trade up to 12. Do you think is it out of the question that they're going any other position other than quarterback?
I can't see how. I think this is clearly writing on the wall. I mean, you think about what Jared Goff did last year. I mean, their brightest moment was miraculously getting a win to make sure, you're not a no-win team. So you have to go and take a shot here. And This seems to be a position where you could have your pick of the litter when it comes to this class. And, you know, it is, man, with quarterbacks in the league, you just got to keep firing until you get one. You know, I think we all are fortunate, and you stats are fortunate with your team that you have a veteran and you have a rookie with, or I guess second-year play with a lot of upside. The Lions don't really have any hope at this point. You need at least hope, in my opinion.
So according to Tom Pelissero, Detroit sent number 32, number 34, and number 66 to the Vikings for number 12 and number 46. How do you think Minnesota made out on the trade, Michael?
I think that's great. I think Minnesota's in a weird purgatory with their roster where they've got some really good high-end talent, but there's definitely some weak spots, especially when you look at that secondary. And Harrison Smith's not getting any younger. Anthony Harris has been off the team for a year or so now, where they had a really good duo on the back end. The cornerback group, which used to be so strong under Mike Zimmer, a unit that he built from scratch, all of a sudden has seen way better days. And that edge rushing group, I mean, that's looking pretty good as well. But they got half a year from Michael Pierce. They signed Harrison Phillips and got some really good interior defenders as well. But the Vikings have always been a strong secondary team, and I think they really need to shore up those cornerback positions. And I think getting a good amount of those picks, essentially almost back-to-back, right, 32 and 34, I think is awesome. I think there's going to be some really good players there, and for them to pick basically 2 players out of a stretch of 3 is huge, especially for a team that just has a new head coach and a new GM.
Yeah, that's a good point. I really like purgatory is the perfect word for what's happening with Minnesota right now. It's really an awkward spot. The pick is in. By the way, I just want to let everybody know, after this pick is in and we get our chance to talk about it, we are going to change up our coverage. We're going to end the live stream. We're going to switch things up and go to a Twitter space, an SB Nation Twitter space, where we're still going to be here with you. We'll still be reacting to everything that happens in the draft, but we want to make it a little more conversational, go back and forth with you. We're going to have members from a bunch of our SB Nation NFL team communities join us, so you can ask them questions as well. It has flown by. I cannot believe we are an hour and a half into this, and we are already through the top 10. We were only going to do the top 10, but we flew through it so fast, and now all the juicy trades are happening. This is like extended coverage here. I have seen rumors of who the pick is on Twitter, and it is not a quarterback.
Wow.
If that's true, do we think the Lions made a mistake, Pete, by trading up?
Well, I mean, it obviously depends on who it is that they're getting, and it seems to be someone that was at the top of their board. I think so, yes. Yeah, I mean, I would have thought, again, not that these quarterbacks are necessarily screaming generational franchise-type guys, but we know that Jared Goff is not that guy. We saw a team trade him and then win the damn Super Bowl, so it seems baffling,
I'm seeing now that the pick is in for the Lions, and now I'm seeing that the Eagles have moved up. What is happening right now?
3 trades in a row. The Eagles apparently gave up for number 13. They gave up number 15, number 124, number 162, and number 166 to move up to 13. So,
I knew Howie was going to make a move. There's no way he was going to sit there. He loves these freaking moves, man.
So they need a wide receiver pretty bad too, and everybody thinks they're going to take one in the first round. So is Howie, like, he's seeing this wide receiver run go now, and he's just like, all right, I gotta make something happen. I gotta get up and take my guy.
All right, so the pick is in for the Lions. It is not a quarterback. It is a wide receiver, and it is Jameson Williams. How do you feel about that, Michael Peterson?
I'll tell you what, there's a lot of guys over at Bulls from the Blue who are hoping Jameson would fall to the Chargers. They're not fans of any of the tackles that'd be available right now, or even Jordan Davis or Devontae Wyatt, some of these other guys. They really wanted a top-end speed type guy who can give the Chargers offense another level that they don't have right now. They got good receivers in Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. Those guys are more route runners, big body, contested catch guys. They don't have a true deep threat that really gives them that third guy to really just take things up a notch. Let's put it that way, to take advantage of Herbert's strong arm. So at this point, I would say wide receivers off the board with them. Olave, London, Williams, Wilson, all gone. I think it really starts to zero in on the pick for the Chargers at least, but I do like this pick. If Jared Goff is going to be their quarterback, it just showed that he had the lowest yardage per attempt in the league this past season. That's 6.6 yards. I think an easy way to increase that number by any amount is you get a guy like Jameson Williams.
Michael, thank you very much for the time tonight. I appreciate all the analysis.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Pete, Stephen, How are you feeling right now for your Chiefs? All these wide receivers are flying off the board, Pete.
Yeah, this was the one scenario I think in Kansas City that none of us were really looking for was this wide receiver run. You're seeing it, and I think as these receivers keep coming off the board, what you might see in Kansas City is them just sitting tight and picking at 29 and 30 and keeping their picks for the days ahead. They have 12 picks in this NFL draft. As Michael was saying, I think Kansas City really wanted, or a lot of fans here wanted to see Jamison Williams maybe fall a little bit further. No one thought he was falling to 29, but just fall to a window where you weren't giving away an arm and a leg to go and get him. And that now isn't the case. And now you wonder if they just keep those picks.
Yeah, I want the Chiefs to move up, and now maybe we're seeing that is a possibility still. I thought that they would have done it sooner, but I still think, like, as far as an edge rusher goes, which is a huge need for them, I think they were hoping Kayvon Thibodeaux was really going to slide, like, outside of the top 10, and we would have seen them be super aggressive and say, we got to go up and get that guy. Now, I still think that they could move up for another wide receiver, especially if this run keeps going the way that it is. But I feel like it's getting more and more likely, like I kind of predicted on the Arrowhead Pride Podcast Network last night, that they're going to stay at 29 and 30, and we're going to see them wheel and deal a lot of these picks that they have in the second, third, and fourth round. And that's where they're going to try to make a lot of moves, because it seems like it's not that expensive to move up right now. But if all the guys that they really wanted to move up for are already gone, there's no reason to do it.
I think a quick point on Detroit, though, too, and getting away from the Chiefs is, are they in the mix for Baker Mayfield or Jimmy G? I just, you're starting to put two and two together, and I think we're now waiting past the draft to see what these markets become. But they could get competitive again now that maybe Seattle would be interested in a Mayfield, maybe Carolina. And now, to me, Detroit is still going to be in that mix for one of these veteran quarterbacks, perhaps.
I feel like Baker fits in with Detroit, right?
Me too.
Like, Baker's kind of like the FU guy. Dan Campbell's there, Mr. Double Shot, Starbucks, kneecap biter kind of a guy. Maybe that's a landing spot for Baker. Let's just zoom out here as the picks are coming in fast and furious, because we thought we were only going to do the top 10. We are still here, but we didn't see an offensive player through the first 5 picks. The first offensive player was a tackle at 6, and now we're at 7 straight offensive players that have come off the board.
I think that's par for the course in the league now. You have these elite defensive players that you can't pass up because it's so offensive friendly, but then the switch flips in a sense where you got to also keep up with the firepower. And so I think you're seeing these runs, and with teams having different needs. If you are a team out there and you need now more defensive players, you probably like this. You probably were a little nervous early.
Right.
Team that was needing to load up on offense. Now you're maybe getting a little bit more worried.
Pete, thank you very much for hopping in from the Chiefs facility there. I'll let you get back. We appreciate you jumping in here and squeezing us in.
All right. Enjoy the draft, fellas.
So, Stephen, final thoughts here as we await the Eagles pick. Is this, in terms of 1 to 10 level of craziness that you thought we were going to see, where do you put the first picks that we've seen so far?
I think it kind of, wound up shaking out the way we thought it would, really, for the top 10 for the most part. Like, I still think that Kyle Hamilton should get drafted here pretty soon, but maybe he winds up sliding a little bit more. But I think for the most part, this is kind of what we expected. Now, 3 trades in a row is pretty unlikely and exciting and cool in the NFL draft. But I think this is kind of what we were expecting. Like, there was supposedly all these teams really interested in being aggressive and getting into the top 10, but maybe the asking price was just too high. And so we're seeing these teams who have an abundance of picks make these cost-effective trade-ups to just say, okay, well, we still really like this guy. He's the best available player that we have left on our board. What's it going to cost us to go get him? Okay, this, number 18 or whatever the Saints gave up, and then a handful of mid-round picks. You do that all day long if it means that you get the guy that you're like, that guy is going to be a superstar player and I want to get him. So I'm interested to see where the Eagles go right here. And I don't think we're done seeing the first round movement. It's just not, obviously it just didn't happen as early as people were saying that it was going to.
The Texans got the 15th overall pick, a 4th round pick this year, and 2 5th round picks this year in order to trade out of the 13th spot with the Eagles. You know, I look at the top 5 picks here, taking a bigger picture view of things, and it's, what is it? It's corners and edge rushers, right? Like, that is what the league values. Those are the positions that are hard to get. Guys that can defend the pass and guys that can rush the passer. I think that's where you are in the NFL. I think, you know, now that we have the rookie wage scale in place for as long as we've had it, teams have zeroed in. They've kind of figured it out. Guys that can rush the quarterback, guys that can stop the passing game. Those are the elite players that really never hit the free agent market except in rare circumstances. And so those are where they're willing to go at the top of the draft.
Well, and even in a what was deemed kind of a weaker wide receiver class, like still considered a deep wide receiver class, but not necessarily loaded with guys that you think are going to be like superstar number 1 caliber wide receivers. But you're seeing how expensive wide receivers are now. And so I think even in a class that you had some questions about the guys at the top of the wide receiver class, teams are still saying, well, we'll take a chance on him because he's cheap and we don't have to pay him $30 million a year like some of these other top wide receivers. And in the modern day NFL, like you saw what Cincinnati did last year with that wide receiver group. You saw what the Chiefs have done with their pass catchers, and the way the AFC West is loading up with offensive talent and just these loaded superstar teams. Like, you got to have multiple pass catchers to be competitive in the NFL now. And you have to have multiple good pass catchers. Like, it's not just have one guy and then other guys who occasionally make plays. Like, now you got to have multiple dudes to succeed in the NFL. And I think that's why we're seeing this run on wide receivers right now.
Well, the run on wide receivers is officially over because the Philadelphia Eagles selection is in. This will be the last pick we get to, I promise. It is defensive tackle Jordan Davis from Georgia. I got to be honest with you. If you told me the Eagles were going to trade up for a player, I would have bet an amount of money that mattered to me that it was going to be a wide receiver. Instead, it's Jordan Davis.
Yeah, their defense was just bad last year, though. And like they've had issues, and their defensive line definitely needs young players. Like Fletcher Cox is still a serviceable player, but like we saw the Eagles cut him this offseason just to bring him back on like a team friendly deal. Cause at his age, he's probably like, I'm not trying to move. I'm not trying to deal with all of that. Like, I'll just sign back for whatever. So they really need some young talent there. And Jordan Davis is a guy that was shooting up draft boards. Like, there was a lot of, before tonight started, a lot of like top 10 hype for him. So maybe the Eagles looked at it and said, we thought he was going to go top 10. The fact that he's still available, it's worth it to us just to move up a couple of spots to make sure the Vikings don't take him or whatever, because that has like a Houston Texans draft pick all over it. And so they were like, listen, we'll give you all this just so we can have Jordan Davis.
It could be a really good night for Georgia. Man, that defense is, or was, I should say, absolutely loaded with NFL talent. That is going to wrap up our live broadcast edition of SB Nation's draft coverage. But don't worry, we are not going to leave you high and dry. We're going to transition to the second aspect of our broadcast tonight. It's a Twitter space. We're still going to have the experts from the SB Nation team communities come on and be able to talk to you and answer your questions. These are the people that know your teams as well as anybody, better than anybody, and certainly as much as you do, and definitely more than some of the talking heads that you're going to see on television tonight. I want to thank everybody that popped in. RJ Ochoa, Justice Mosqueda, Michael Peterson, Kate Maju, Pete Sweeney. I hope I didn't leave anybody out. If I did, I apologize. It has been a hell of a broadcast. Stephen, thank you very much. You made it very easy for me.
No problem. I'll talk to you in the Spaces, Stats.
Oh, yeah, baby. Time to go to the Spaces. Thanks for joining us, everybody.